Joining me now from London is Alistair Campbell, a writer and strategist who was Director of Communications for former Labour Prime Minister Tony Blair. Thank you for joining us. So Boris Johnson has finally admitted he was at the party and offered an apology. Does this go near enough to see him through this crisis?
Well, it shouldn't, because just be clear what it means, what happened today. He stood up in the House of Commons and admitted, finally, it having been dragged from him over weeks, he admitted that he broke the law and he admitted that he was in breach of his own ministerial code. That is a resigning offence. Now, he won't resign. Boris Johnson is somebody who his entire life has made rules for others and never felt that they apply to him. He's a liar. He's a charlatan. He's somebody without a moral compass. And people were warned of that. People knew that when he was elected. And this, to me, is the inevitable consequence of what happens when you put in power somebody of the amorality of Boris Johnson. So certainly for me, he hasn't done enough. And, you know, I don't think he should ever have got the job, but he did. The British people elected him. But I think an awful lot of people, the feelings about Boris Johnson have turned to absolute, complete disgust and contempt. And I think a lot of people in the country now feel that.
The Prime Minister is calling on MPs to wait for the result of Sue Gray's investigation before making a judgment. And he's gambling a lot on what she'll say, surely.
Well, I know Sue Gray very well from the time when I worked in Downing Street. She's a very, very strong and professional woman. She's a very committed public servant. But I think he has put her in a completely invidious position, because for a civil servant now to be sitting in judgment, effectively, whether the Prime Minister should stay in office, that is utterly unacceptable in my view. Now, I think she'll do a good job. I think she'll probably get to the truth. But that is a very, very, very difficult position to put somebody into. I absolutely believe now that the Metropolitan Police, they should be looking into this now. They have been saying they don't have any evidence to investigate. Well, they've now got an invitation to a party at a time when their officers were going around London arresting people who were meeting each other outside in groups of more than two. I mean, it could not be clearer. And for him to pretend that he thought this was a work event, he really does seem to think that the British people are totally stupid.
Today was the first time that Sir Keir Starmer called for the Prime Minister's resignation, despite a series of scandals. Why has he waited so long?
Well, I think you've got to be very careful in calling for people's resignation, because there's always a danger when you do. And your correspondent earlier was talking about a motion of no confidence. If, for example, Labour were to put down a motion of no confidence, it might unite the Conservatives. But I think that what Keir Starmer did there it's the inevitable consequence of where we are. He does have to resign. You cannot stay in office when you have broken the law and you've broken the ministerial code so clearly. Now, as it happens, I think Johnson's broken the ministerial code many times before, because he has lied in Parliament before, and that is meant to be a resigning offence. But I think what we're seeing here, I thought Keir Starmer today was absolutely skewered Johnson. He didn't go over the top. He was very forensic. He was very fact-based. He was very calm. And Johnson did what he always does, which is sit there shaking his head and pretending that somebody's talking about a different planet, as if he's had nothing to do with what was going on. And by the way, you say he apologised. He didn't apologise, in effect. What he said was that he was very, very sorry that mistakes were made. He didn't say, I made the mistakes. And apparently he's been talking to Tory MPs tonight and telling them he hopes that they support him because he's actually standing up for other people who made the mistake. He is the Prime Minister. I've worked in Downing Street for many, many years. There is no way in the world that a senior civil servant would send out invitations to a party in the garden at the height of a pandemic, when at the same time in the building there is a cabinet minister doing a press conference telling the country they can't go out. There is no way that happens without the Prime Minister giving the go-ahead. Absolutely no way. And if it is happening inside, it means he has no control and no authority. So either way, I just think eventually, look, he's a dead man walking now. It actually might suit the Labour Party for him to just sort of, limp on. But I go back to my basic point. The guy is a liar and a charlatan. He should never have been near serious public office ever. And we're now reaping the consequences of the fact that happened.
Alastair Campbell, thank you very much for speaking to Euronews.